An Australasian combat sports icon, our next guest, documentary film about his incredible career. Mark Hunt, the fight of his life, drops in cinemas in New Zealand and Australia and select cinemas on Feb 3rd. The legend himself is back in the house. And look where he's joining us from. Where is this man? He's always located in crazy places around the world. The Super Samoan himself, Mark Hunt. Welcome back to Submission Radio.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on the show. And I have no idea where this backdrop has come from, but I just try to fix it. But it looks kind of better than what it was before. So yeah, wherever I am, I'm at home. So it's, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate the time.
Then I think you've improved the backdrop for sure. This reminds me of like 10 years ago when I would spend all night playing Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty. So this is great. But Mark, welcome back to the show, man. We're excited about this new movie. For those that never heard the stories, obviously your book, Born to Fight, is one of the best sports autobiographies we've ever read. How does it feel to have, your story come to the big screen?
To be honest, it's kind of surreal. It's surreal because, coming from how I started, I didn't really expect anything to become of my life and myself. But it's things have changed a lot. I've come such a long way from where I was before, and to have a documentary about it is kind of pretty good. Kind of amazing, to be honest, and to actually come to where it is at this point in time in life. Where I am with things, it's quite, I feel pretty good.
Like Casper mentioned, your book, one of the best autobiographies we've ever read, but so much has happened since you've written that book in your life. You've done so many different things as well. How excited are you for some of those things to be spotlighted in this movie as well? And how crazy is it that, your life has been so impressive. You've done so many big things. You've been through so much, but even after that book, there's so many more stories to tell with this movie that's coming out.
Yeah, it's a journey that's gone from different places to different parts of the world to coming to this point in time with different things. It highlights a little bit of my childhood, my upbringing. Coming to Australia and conquering the combat world, moving on to different challenges in life, and then going from combat to what seems what is probably my last fight, and it's not even actually in the octagonal ring. It's in a law court, to be honest. And it's not even in Australia. It's in America. So it's kind of surreal, but hopefully it shows pretty much like how the book was, and I feel the people that have watched it said it was a great depiction. So I feel pretty good about the doco coming out, and looking forward to everyone watching it.
I wonder, like, when you watch some of that stuff back and you look at that documentary, how does that feel? And like, what kind of perspective do you have on some of the things that you've been through now compared to obviously when they were happening when you were younger? Like, I imagine it would be pretty crazy to sit there at this point in your career and your life, and then look back at some of the crazy things that you've been through in your life. Like, did you find yourself having sort of a different perspective or a different outlook on some of the things once you actually sat down, watched the movie on the big screen? What was that like? I imagine it'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, my take on it would be totally different from a stranger's take on it, to be honest. Living through these circumstances and things, it was normality. My normality was different from others. I feel a lot of people that era and time, they were probably having a lot of the same issues, but a lot of people didn't get a chance to speak up about it, or have a platform, as in with combat sports and fighting. I've always said fighting saved my life, which it has, and here I am fighting for. At the end of it, fighting for equality, just for an even playing field in the end, and not even in the ring or octagon. But it's surreal. It's kind of not where I expected things to be with my life, to be honest. And here we are. So yeah.
It's interesting. What do you think your legacy will be in the sport, Mark? Because I feel like for, a few decades, your legacy was in fighting and, some of the most just craziest wars and brutal knockouts and like your durability and like all the highlight reel moments. But I almost feel like in these past few years, your legacy is more about standing up for fighters' rights and fighters' pay and trying to bring a lot of justice to the sport. Where do you think your legacy is at these days? And did you ever think like back in the day where, I feel like you were a guy who just took sort of one fight and focused on what's in front of him. Did you ever think that you'd be part of something so much bigger than, just those fights at the time?
No, fighting for me saved my life. I never wanted to be a fighter, to be honest. It just was what I feel God said, this is what you're going to do with your life. And as I competed and went along the journey of combat sports, it ended up being such a long journey. I didn't realize how long it was. And now coming to this point, it just becomes another fight. It wasn't even about, this fight isn't even about, who's the best fighter in the world, to be honest. I feel with the UFC company, the sport is they're just taking advantage of the sport. People think mixed martial arts is the UFC. The UFC is just a company, as we all know. But a lot of people don't. They think mixed martial arts is UFC. So, and just to be fighting on an even playing field, and for fighters' rights, it was totally not what I expected to be fighting for. To be honest, I thought my time, was already up. I mean, like six years ago. I think when I filed this lawsuit, it wasn't about it wasn't about the finances. It was about equality and fighting on an even playing field, because I never got that. It was always one guy after the other cheating, and the UFC doing nothing about it. I'm like, why can't you guys do something about this guy? Well, even if I won the fight, I was always saying, can you do something about this? A fine and time off is not going to cut it these days, because people could die in this sport. It's a dangerous business, dangerous job. And a lot of people compare what we do to a normal job. It's not normal what we do. Mm-hmm. Getting beat up for a living is not normal.
Just quickly before you go in there, Dennis, you mentioned before how you didn't originally want to be a fighter. I think sometimes there's this feeling like, fighters love fighting. Fighters just love it, and they love getting in there. But then you hear people like Nick Diaz say like they don't really enjoy it, they don't really like it. They talk about how nervous they are, and it's almost like, as a fan, you're almost like, oh, what? You don't love it? You look like you love it. Like, it's almost like breaking the fantasy, so to speak. But then you kind of feel like, well, it's actually maybe a lot more common than you think. Did you ever love fighting? Did you love getting in there and fighting, or was it maybe similar to kind of like how Nick Diaz described it, where for him it was almost kind of like a job, and there were parts that he didn't really enjoy about it, actually?
Look, like I said earlier, I never wanted to be a fighter, but having a piece of shit father like I did, he was kind of pretty, it was ruthless. He was a ruthless person, and fighting, getting beat up was kind of normal. He was always beating us up, to be honest. And life, a fighter's life is always affliction, and that's what pain is, affliction. So it made sense, to be honest. So I enjoy combat sport. I enjoy competing. What it's come down to, I just don't enjoy the other side of it, where you have to fight against all these crooked people in the sport. Competing is like euphoric when you walk out there to go to battle, but when you're not totally in the moment, in the zone, your mind's elsewhere, is battling other things like lawsuits and things like that. So it only makes sense. And there was a certain point in my career when I was totally happy with working, being part of the UFC, being part of the elite group of fighters, because I was blinded by what they were, the facade they were putting up and telling everyone and showing everyone. And I'm like in this company going, well, I'm part of the elite, so why am I getting these chump changes? Why is things like this? Why is this guy cheating? And after every fight, you don't do much about it with these things. Why do I got to deal with this in this sport? This is like, and it's grown so much from this. So much of the whole world is watching this sport compete. Yet these fighters are fighting for the world title of, I feel absolutely zero, because it has zero prestige. It is not worthy of time or blood or people's money. I just feel the globe has been watching this sport, but yet the finances are not shifted to these fighters. It's just, I mean, I said it on many interviews, when you become the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, you've made it. You've climbed the Mount Everest. You don't have to worry about finances again. But with UFC, it's you climb to be the best fighter in the world, and you're fighting for peanuts. I mean, people say to me, "Well, 500,000, 600,000, what you were getting paid is a lot of money." Yeah, I get it's a lot of money, but don't compare your job to my job. What I was doing, what I was doing was fighting the elite fighters in the world. The 1% best in the world, not going to a normal job. Do not compare your $100,000 a year to what a top-end prize fighter should be getting, and that's where the difference is. They're getting, and one fight could end you. So when people talk about, it's a lot of money. Yeah, it is, but it takes special people to be competing at that top-end level at the end of it to actually make it in their business at the top table where people sit. There's not many people who can sit there for long periods of time. You get a short window to make your money. And, because, and that's what I just don't understand these days. So when I got to when I made it to the top, in 2001 and became a prize fighter, a professional prize fighter with a contract, that's when it all started for me. Like, the actual proper fighting is when you get to the top of fighting with contracts, and people say, "Did you read your contract?" Yeah, okay, so you read the contract, and as you go along, you start understanding and realizing, okay, so this isn't good, so I want things changed about it. Oh, but the company won't let you change these things. Well, why not? Well, in some companies, they make you sit and wait till you've got no money, like what they did to Ngannou. Then they said, well, here's a new contract. Well, I don't want to take the contract. I want a different deal. I want a better deal. Well, this is the only deal you should take. Why should I have to take the deal? Because that's the only deal you're going to get. And if you don't want to take this deal, you're not going to fight for another 2 more years. Now, this is where it sits with this company. So that's called exploitation and corruption. So, I mean, for all those people that are listening to this, they don't really understand much about UFC contracts, how they tie you up with everything. I understand because I've been through it. I know it. I've seen it. So that's why I'm speaking up a lot about the contract, the pay scheme of things, the cheaters in these things, because when it comes to fighting, every time I fought someone, they said, you fought in the days of Pride. They're saying, yeah, but Pride in those days, we're not claiming they were the cleanest company in the world. They didn't have, turncoats like freaking Jeff Davinsky, on board, saying, oh, we're the cleanest sport in the world. We are, we've got you. We'll make it sure everything's clean and not above board, so your contract says you're not going to fight any cheaters. Well, then Jeff Davinsky, why do the results come back after all the fights? It takes about $15 to expedite a result. Why does always the results that matter come back after the fights when all the fights are done? And then you say, here's a fine, here's some time off, start again in a year. That can't be right, They just, with the amount of people watching this sport, the amount of things going on, they got to have something better. USADA is a private company. I feel they work together with UFC in some ways, because I feel that it's just, that's why people are in lawsuits these days, because these corrupt guys, are just doing this all the time. They continuously do this, and they say to people like me, you're just whining. You just continue saying the same thing. I'm saying the same thing because you're not listening. You're not hearing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is right. It's true. It's what I've been through and what a lot of people have been through to this day. You just have a look at the history and past of the UFC. Fighters having to go fund me, whether they spend their money or not. The problem was they probably weren't getting the right amount of money. Well, actually, I don't probably say that they weren't getting the right amount of money. I mean, if Francis Ngannou was getting $500,000 to $600,000 from his last fight, and I got $950 6 years ago on my last fight, and I never had the bout. What does that tell you? That actually explains to you right there. And they said, what did you get $950,000 US on your last fight 6 years ago? And the world heavyweight champion of the world is arguing $500,000 to $600,000. People say he's got a spending problem, needs to budget. No, that is not the answer here. That is, they're looking at the wrong. His explanation is they're looking at things wrong. I mean, whether he makes this amount of this, he should be, whether he's got a $15,000 watch or not, he should have a $100,000 watch. He's the world's best. He's the number one person on this planet walking around. Yet that's how they treat these their world champions. They treat them like this. They say, "Oh, here, take this $500,000, and you'll get part of this pay-per-view." Oh, well, how much of the part of the pay-per-view am I going to get? Well, can you take 50 cents? 50 cents of what? Of $74. And people are paying 74 whatever dollars to pay for this pay-per-view. And then I realized that the percentage of the pay-per-view, half of it does not go to that fighter, like when you're the heavyweight boxing world champion, because the Ali Act, he's only getting 50 cents of that $74. People don't realize this. They think, oh, he's got that championship clause. Yeah, so then he's got to argue of how much of that percentage you'll get. And then what happens is when you're into the contract, if you don't sign that new contract to fight so you can get something to eat or do your next fight, they'll sit you on the back of that bus so you don't fight for another year or so. What are you going to do then? This is what this Ngannou is arguing about right now, is a fighter paying contract. But there's a lot of idiots out there that don't understand this. You just sit there and talk, and this. You read the contract. You signed the contract. Okay, he signed the contract. Now he wants a better deal. They've done the UFC have done this for such a long time now, and they're still doing it now. That's why it makes me laugh, because all these idiots that think they know, they don't know, because they've never been through this company. They never sat there and seen it. Like at one stage in my career, I was okay with being part of this company, but now, like 6 years ago when I left the company, I understand what it was all about. They're just a bunch of grubs just stealing off everyone. I think for me, it's sad, because the sport of MMA should be flourishing. These fighters, these men and women that the boys and girls that are watching this should be studying this, going, "Oh man, I'm gonna make it there. I'm gonna go and buy my parents. I'm gonna buy my house. I'm gonna buy all these things. Do all these things." No. You'll be going up there, and if people like me and other people don't fight to get things changed, you'll be doing the same thing. If it wasn't for you in my position, you'll be doing the same thing. You'll have enough of their rubbish. You'll say, "I'm sick of it. Now what I'm going to do?" But the problem is, if we don't succeed in these lawsuits, these companies like UFC are going to tighten their contracts so you can't even breathe. That is what they're going to do, because they're going to learn from guys like me suing them and say, "Oh, shucks. How did this guy get this far?" I mean, if you look at the appellate hearing that we won the appeal, those judges look at these lawyers like they're idiots. They look at Brock Lesnar's lawyer and they look at Dana White and UFC lawyers and like, how did this even make it here?
Yeah, and I think that you speaking out about it really gives fighters an opportunity to learn about this stuff before they sign these contracts, and really gives them an idea of what happens behind the scenes. Like, people really were shocked when they found out when Francis said that the UFC allegedly threatened to sue his manager for just talking to Jake Paul's business partner when he did his interview with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour. But it seems like this kind of stuff happens all the time, Mark, like behind the scenes that people don't realize.
Yeah, man. People, me, Mark Hunt, he's a fighter not only in the ring and the octagon, he's a fighter outside, he's a fighter in life. And that's how I feel all these fighters. I mean, they're just sitting, they're actually living on their knees. I've always, I've always wanted to, not be one of those people. And as a kid growing up, I couldn't do anything to help my siblings, my sister being molested, all that stuff. But as an adult man, when something happens like this, I'm the first person to say something. When it keeps happening to you, keep fighting these guys that are cheating, and you keep telling this company, can you do something about this guy? Even if you'd won the fight, they'll do the same thing. They'll go back to their friends, the USADA, and say, we'll give them a fine, give them wait out a year, and then we'll start again with them, And this is what they do. So what punishment is there? I mean, there is no actual punishment to stop these guys from there's no deterrent from doing it to these guys, I always say to for us. Like in society, when we break laws in society, like how I started, you put them in jail, you punish them. Then they'll have second thoughts, they'll have a conscience about doing it again. But not in fighting, because they not in the UFC. They said, yeah, come along, just take a year off, take the money, we'll look after you. Forget about the guy that's doing the right thing. Forget about the guy that does it straight, that gets up and busts his ass every day like everyone else. But just take this cheater side, because, we're a bunch of cheaters too. So.
Yeah, 100%. Don't let the system cheat you, especially when you're browsing the internet. Don't let your data and your information, your credit cards get stolen. I had a mate who connected to a dodgy airport Wi-Fi and had his credit card details stolen. All of a sudden, he's buying things in the Bahamas. Stream securely, surf securely, and if you want to do that, there's only one VPN, which is NordVPN. You can access content from over 59 different countries by changing your virtual location with one click. I've actually downloaded the Firefox add-on, and I've just got it running permanently in the background, and it's so quick. Normally you have these issues when you connect to a VPN, it just slows down everything and all the web pages are loading for like 1,000 years. You want to, stream stuff from like other Netflix or YouTube or other sort of, geographical locations, and it's so slow. With NordVPN, it's lightning fast. I've just got it on permanently, and I can't tell the difference between my regular internet and, with the VPN. The difference is with the VPN, it's nice and secure. You can't be tracked if you're, say, at work, using their Wi-Fi to download all sorts of things. They can't track what you're downloading. It's fantastic. Stream securely, avoid buffering, and amazing speeds. NordVPN, the only one to go to, isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And they have the GOAT app as well. So you guys could go to nordvpn.com/submission, use code word submission, get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan, plus one additional month for free. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Jump on it today, Cass. And also, this weekend, obviously, we've got a big fight between Jack Hermansson and Sean Strickland. How about this? At my bookie, Jack Hermansson plus 170, Sean Strickland minus 210. But also, you guys can double your first deposit with the code word submission. So go to my bookie today. It's really my bookie season right now. You've got the NFL playoffs happening right now. NHL's going crazy. What's happening in the NBA? Who knows? The fights are nuts. UFC 271 right around the corner. Secure the great odds right now. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with the code word submission at MyBookie.
That's right. That is nuts. Speaking of nuts, roses are red, violets are blue. Don't let a wild pube wreck you. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and our sponsors, our good friends at Manscaped, are here for you with the best tools. The Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, the best motor. You got the pure power with skin-safe technology, so never cut your nuts. The LED light, it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. And then you've got the travel lock, and then after your shower, you can just chuck it on the wireless charger and just move on with your life. And the Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. You've also got the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and Crop Reviver ball toner. Let's say you're on a hot date, you go to the bathroom and you realize, oh man, I'm not too fresh down there. We just had a bunch of garlic scallops at dinner. Bang. Use the Crop Reviver Ball Toner, you're back in the game, and everything is smelling roses. They even give you free underwear and a free bag with the Performance Package 4.0. A must this Valentine's Day. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Well, it's not to love, man. And also, I think people didn't realize it's underestimated how great this thing is at beard trimming. I use it all the time. It comes with this great little guard. We can set the sort of differences in size of the shave. And seriously, 2 seconds. You guys know I have different sort of facial hair, beards and stuff like that. Takes it in an instant. Usually people have to use scissors and all sorts of things to get it sorted. And you can use it in the shower. It's always charged. So simple, so easy. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word submission now.
That's right. With that said, obviously back to the matter at hand with you, Mark. So obviously, like you said, you've got Ngannou. You painted a good picture. He's the champion. He should be at least somewhat rich. He's only getting like 600,000, which I guess a lot of people forget that like it's not like a regular job where you can work till you're like 65. You kind of have to have most of your money done by early 40s. You can't be fighting at like 50, 60. Most people aren't Randy Couture. But so I wanted to ask you, like, with Ngannou, he's potentially going to sit out. He's got the knee surgery, and then he in an ideal world, he leaves the company as the heavyweight champion. But then you got to think, are they going to strip him in the meantime? What's going to happen? Have you spoken to him at any point? And if you were in his shoes, what would you do?
Well, no, I haven't spoken to Francis. I've only been at one time in Vegas, and his first words to me was, I would like to fight with you. And I said, yeah, of course. That's not up to me, but yeah, anytime. Then we proceeded to do the photos and all that jazz. I reached out to Roy Nelson, and I reached out to Ray before the fight, and I said, look, man, this guy, I mean, even like before, even Stipe, I mean, these guys are getting ripped off. I mean, he's getting paid. I said to them, 6 years ago, my last fight against Willis I got $950,000.
Wow.
Yeah, US. He's getting 500-600. I never had the belt. People make all these excuses about he doesn't bring the pay-per-views, he doesn't all this. Stop talking if you don't know. Just like people just make up just shit out of the air. I don't know where they get it from. But and if I was Francis, stop living on your knees, man. Stop being one of those guys that say, yeah, okay. I mean, I could have been one of those guys. I could have got a couple more million. I could have got 5-6 more million from another couple more contracts working for this company. But I had enough. I had sick of them doing this to me all the time, whether I won the fight or not. They just kept putting these guys back in the circle and saying, just give him a fine and put it back in. It's not a body cheating. It is your fault that he is cheating. You are supposed to look after your employees. Your contract says it, that it's supposed to be a clean competition. That is not a clean competition when you're allowing these guys to do this. And with Ngannou, I mean, of course you should sit out. Of course you should look at his other options. To be the man in MMA getting paid $500,000 to $600,000 is a freaking joke. I just explained to you, I got paid $950 6 years ago, and I never had the belt. So, right there goes to show you how much these guys are getting exploited. And then people say, I'll go do that for less than this and that. Yeah, right, you would. You talk all this game, but you've probably never been in a high-end level, at the highest elite level in the world where everyone's watching. These people just talk so much rubbish. It's just very ridiculous. It blows my mind where I just can't fathom it. I was like, wow. And with Ngannou, sit out, but get your money's worth. Because one injury, like this knee injury, whatever injury, that's you done. One injury. So, I mean, get what you're supposed to be worth. If you're supposed to be getting paid, if the elite in the world as a UFC mixed martial arts fighter is getting, and he's arguing for more money, he's getting 500,000 to 600,000, then how much are the others getting? When you're the top 5 or top 10 in the MMA, you're supposed to be getting, you're in the hundreds of thousands and the millions when you're the champ. So if Ngannou is getting 500,000 to 600,000, and he's the cream of the crop of the heavyweights, what are the others getting? Do they, can you see what I'm seeing? I'm like, wow, so they must be getting even way less.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy because people didn't realize this, and they didn't realize the fact that you pay tax off that money, you pay your manager off that money, you pay training fees off the money. So $600,000 is not $600,000, and people don't realize this. Depending on where you fight, it depends on your percentage, and there's all sorts of things that. And it's not like the UFC's there paying your taxes for you and giving you all the information that you need. So you get a lot of people don't even realizing this and ending up in debt. Just quickly, man, I just want to also get your thoughts. What do you think of Jake Paul sort of being in there and publicizing some of these differences? I mean, obviously he's had a really good year in boxing, but one of the things that he's doing is making sure that people know the difference between the money that people should be getting in boxing compared to the money that people are getting in the UFC. And he just put out a diss track to Dana White where he sort of continues this rivalry and continues to push. I know he bought a bit of stock in the company as well. So he's really sort of brought it to some of the mainstream limelight, just like yourself.
I think he's doing the right thing because he's got good information. So, everything, that video I saw was kind of funny, but it's true. It's actually true because it's happened to me. And him buying stocks in the company probably means because he knows that I don't know if that's even true, to be honest. I mean, the only reason you'll buy stocks is to try and make a change, but even then you can't even make a change unless you've got majority share. So I think, a lot of it with that video is correct. I don't know about him dissing those other fighters. I think, the fighters, you can't really diss the fighters for trying to do their jobs. It's just, it's actually the company that are just, people like Dana just screwing people over. I don't know why people think Dana's a good person, or he's just a ruthless businessman. He cares not about any one of those people. Like there's like, the truth is, if you can't fight or bring an audience, you're not, you shouldn't even you shouldn't be part of the thing. It just makes me laugh how people can brown nose him all the time, thinking they're going to get a leg up from him. What, you get a leg up where? You got to be able to fight to start with. So I mean, even trying to get a contract in that company is just disappointing. You wouldn't want to get one there, to be honest.
We'll let you go. We could talk to you all day, Mark, but we got to let you go. We'll end on this. Just quickly, on a bit of a side note, obviously your good friend Tai Tuivasa, he's fighting Derrick Lewis. I'm just curious what you think of the awesome streak that he's on. Obviously, there was a point where he had, I think, 3 losses in a row. It wasn't looking good for him. Now he's turned things around. He's looking great. If he beats Derrick Lewis, you got to think he's knocking on the door of a title shot. How do you see that fight going? Obviously, you fought Derrick Lewis before. And then also in the back of your mind, are you sort of thinking, all right, what happens when Tai gets to that title picture, given, how things happen, in the UFC with like contracts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I spoke to Ben before. He was in a similar situation. But he signed. He's doing really well. Like I said, I know Ben personally. He's helped me become one of the world's best. I just, like I said, I'll always support. The guys I've helped and have helped me. I've always support the brothers, all sorts. I just don't like where they're going to end up. They're going to go to this. I mean, look at Francis Ngannou, man. Just look at the pure example. Even before him, John Jones, the cheater. Look at that guy. Look at where you're going to end up. You're going to be ending up there at a table, like with that poor video. You're going to be sitting there with that freaking dickhead Dana, and there's other freaking cronies sitting around, and they're all going to be talking about, this is the best deal you'll ever get. The best deal you'll ever get. Like when I signed my first work contract, I looked to my left side for my management, and my management said to me, before this tournament, $1 million in 2001, an open checkbook. As we got closer, lower and lower, and as we got to the table, $60,000 in 2001 is what I was got for a fight for. And I looked at him and said, "Is that the best that's going to happen?" He said, "Is that the best I can do?" And he goes, "Yes."
Wow.
So that was the first contract I got ripped off. For our money, it was double because it was American dollars, and the Aussie dollar was 120,000. And you got taxes, but I was fighting 6 to 8 times a year. That was kickboxing, and that was back then. Some of these guys in the UFC don't even get that now.
Yeah.
So for Bam, to be, I love the brother. I just, and he knows how I feel. I said, I've distanced myself because I know UFC dislikes me, and I totally, they totally know how I feel about them. And all I'm doing, and all I've ever done is trying to fight for equality. I couldn't stick up for my siblings, and all I'm trying to do here is get an even playing field for those coming after me. Because I feel as I came through, no one helped me to and gave me the right way to go. So when I came through, I said, I'm gonna try and set an example and cover the holes that I fell in, so these guys will have to deal with this shit. But I'm proud of Bam and all the guys that I've helped getting to where they're getting and going through. I just, you don't need to look at me for like dissing them and what they do. I'm just trying to make things even better for them. That's all. Just like a lot of the fighters in the lawsuits, all we're doing is just trying to fight for equality, fair pay, and fighting against cheaters in the sport. That's all we're doing with these lawsuits. I could have been like one of those other guys. Could have been just a normal fighter like them and just say, "Look, man, I'm just going to take my paycheck and go home." I just couldn't stomach it anymore. I just couldn't do it. It wasn't just a Lesnar that broke the straw on the camel's back. He was just the last one of them, along a long list of these guys. So that's where I started. So yeah. Anyway, I'll always back my brothers, but I just, that's why I'm fighting on this side.
Yeah.
I'm fighting on this side for them. You know, not just talking my talk and whining, whatever. I'm fighting on the law courts with, you know, financially and everything else. You know, they can do their fighting in the ring, and hopefully things change for the better for the future of all the fighters of MMA, boys and girls.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a powerful movie, and we can't wait to see what happens next with this appeal. I know you said that this whole process has made you lose your love for MMA. It's kind of really sad to see because you've done so much for the sport. Is there anything, do you think, that could bring your love for MMA back in the future, or do you think it's gone forever?
The only thing that excites me is watching the guys all the local guys, all our guys here in Australia and New Zealand, competing at the highest level. But you know, I like them to see them do well. I just you know, don't like the kind of money that these guys are giving them, or the kind of money they're getting cheated. Because you got to remember, behind every single one of those guys is a family, you know, a woman, their kids, whatever. So you got to remember that when you see a person that's fighting, it's not just him. There's a whole community behind that person, and a whole, you know, people backing these people. And when they're getting treated, just remember you're getting cheated as well. When those guys are cheating their fighter, they're cheating you also.
Well, guys, until then, obviously check out Mark Hunt's incredible movie, available in selected cinemas in Australia and New Zealand from February 3rd. Follow the man at Mark Hunt Fighter on Instagram and Mark Hunt 1974 on Twitter. Mark, you're an absolute legend of the sport, man. Always appreciate your time. Always appreciate you chatting with us, and keep fighting the good fight, man.
Thanks very much. Appreciate the time, guys. Take it easy.